Peace and love, and welcome to the first official edition of Fireside Chats with ZaZa Ali, yours truly. I am very grateful to be with you on this beautiful November 24th day. And I just want to thank you for, tuning in, for listening, and for your time and attention. This is the first of many fireside chats that I will be doing. This is actually a specific part of my private group, Alchemy Cipher, which I am getting ready to relaunch. But I will also occasionally be posting these fireside chats on YouTube and Facebook to obviously promote the group, but also to, have a broader conversation and have a meeting of the minds, a conversation with the world, so to speak. So it'll basically be me sitting down and kind of picking and choosing subjects or topics and, just kind of talking about my perspective, my research, and my studies and how I feel about certain things. So welcome. And again, we will be continually having fireside chats with ZaZa Ali on Alchemy Cipher, but I will also occasionally be posting these and putting them up publicly for everyone to experience. Today's topic is going to be attention versus intention, and this is a specific course that we have in Alchemy Cipher. It's actually the first course that I'm putting out for the relaunch. And this topic is important right now in particular because of everything that's happening in the world with COVID-19, with, a lot of people suffering with their thoughts and with how they're feeling and being kind of programmed or pushed and pulled based on fear-based consciousness. So I felt like this was important because of those things, obviously, but also because we are on the cusp of a new year. And so I'd like to start to set the tone for the group, Alchemy Cipher, as well as those of you who will hear my voice in this particular presentation, starting to set the tone about consciously creating our reality and being mindful of how we are thinking and feeling and how that is going to project into our future realities. So I want to start out with a quote by Deepak Chopra from the 7 Spiritual Laws of Success, which is one of my favorite books, and I recommend this to my private clients all the time, and people who are looking for a place to start when it comes to looking at the world through a spiritual lens. So in the chapter called The Law of Intention and Desire, he says, intention is the real power behind desire. Intent alone is very powerful because intent is desire without attachment to the outcome. Desire alone is weak because desire in most people is attention with attachment. Intent is desire with strict adherence to all other laws, but particularly the law of detachment, which is the 6th spiritual law of success. Intention combined with detachment leads to life-centered present moment awareness. And when action is performed in present moment awareness, it is most effective. Your intent is for the future, but your attention is in the present. As long as your attention is in the present, then your intent for the future will manifest. And this is critical right now because, I'm watching social media, I'm watching the news, I'm watching the world, I'm listening to people that I know and love and care about and kind of assessing the vibration, assessing the mindset, and assessing the energy of the collective consciousness. And I was, having a conversation with a friend earlier today, and I was talking about the fact that because the broader collective consciousness is so focused in fear and all of the what ifs, right? What if vaccinations are mandatory? What if I have to get a vaccine to maintain my job? What if I'm not able to travel if I don't get a vaccination? What if, the worst case scenario comes to be and millions of people die? I'm hearing and seeing these conversations about food shortages, about water shortages, about, lack of employment. And it's concerning to me because I know that these thoughts and these feelings and this level of worry and doubt and fear based consciousness is going to produce a reality and circumstances and events that most of us are not prepared for. So, when we talk about the intention is desire with strict adherence to all other laws, but particularly the law of detachment. The law of attachment is referencing you being able to focus on and identify whatever your desire is. And once you identify it, once you write it down, once you ask for it, you are able to detach from the fact that you don't have it, or the fact that you do have it, or the fact that it may come, or the fact that it may not come, right? And I think a lot of times in spiritual circles, at least from my research, I think a lot of people think the law of detachment is referring from not being detached from the people that you love, right? Being detached from material things. And there's an element to it, to that. Anything that, you immerse yourself in to too great an extent can become a master opposed to a servant, right? Um, but it's not about detaching yourself from your children per se. It's about having love and expressing kindness and expressing gratitude and expressing abundance and all of the innuendos that come with, what it is to be a human being, without expectations. So in particular, when we talk about, desires, right? You say, I want $1 million, or I want a new car, or I want to attract my soulmate or meet the love of my life, or I just want peace. It's important that once we identify whatever the desire is, that we are able to visualize, that we are able to focus our thoughts and our feelings in the present moment from I already have this energy and desire. It is mine, right? So shall it be. Thy will be done. And then letting it go. Now, the trick is, and I talk about this with my personal clients, is being able to identify the believability factor, your belief factor, right? So if you are making, let's say, $10 an hour at your present job, and your desire is, well, I want to make more money. To say, well, I want my, company to give me a raise and make $100 an hour. Is that possible? Of course it is. But the question is, what is your believability factor? Do you believe that you can go from working $10 an hour to making $100 an hour in the job that you're working in? Is the environment capable of paying you $100, right? So if you work at McDonald's, that's probably not going to happen unless you get a promotion and become, somewhere involved in the corporate area of McDonald's. But it is possible for you to work your way up and become an assistant manager and eventually a manager, perhaps make $25 an hour, right? So the believability factor has to be there. That way you're not at battle with yourself when you go through your visualization process of seeing yourself get the promotion, your boss walking you into or inviting you into his office and telling you how much they appreciate and value your service and your work. And now they want to promote you. And not only are they going to promote you, but they're also going to give you a raise. Well, how much is the raise? Well, at first we're going to start you off as an assistant manager, which will take you up to $17 an hour. And then eventually, after a 6-month trial period, if things work out, then we could promote you to a manager, which actually would make $25 an hour, right? The believability factor is there. So you don't have to be fighting yourself every day over, I want $100 an hour, but I know my company's never going to pay me that amount of money, right? So identifying the things that you actually want in your life. And, it can be minimal, like shoes and a purse, although those things, the substance that comes with, those things sometimes is lacking, so to speak. It may be a physical desire that you have, but there's no real true substance behind that desire. Something that can elevate you as far as your heart center, as far as the quality and the type of human being that you are. And again, there's nothing wrong with desiring purses. There's nothing wrong with desiring shoes, but it's all about the energy around what it is that you desire. If you want a new pair of Jimmy Choo shoes just so you can floss on, your friends or your neighbors, that's a counterproductive, or a frequency that may be kind of at battle with itself, because there's some negative energy that's attached to that desire. You know what I mean? And it may have a hindering effect on another human being. So that's when it can get kind of fuzzy. But anything that you desire, whether it's shoes and a purse, or whether it's a car and a house, or whether it's a trip around the world, can absolutely be yours. But the first thing you have to identify is the believability factor. Do I believe that this can actually come into my reality? So I want to ask you, what are you focusing your time and your energy on? Or better yet, let me say it this way. Can you identify one specific thing that you have 100% focus when you are in the process of doing that one specific thing? And for me, I would, yoga would be an example for me. When I do yoga, when I'm on the mat for, let's say an hour's worth of time, I am conscientiously present and focused on every pose. I'm focused on my breathing. I'm focused on making sure that my body is in alignment, excuse me, and that I am, kind of feeling the movement of each posture, that my body is in a rhythm with my breath, and that I'm present, right? So if I do yoga for an hour, I know that during that 1 hour, and probably the first 5 or 10 minutes, I might be a little bit, thinking about what I didn't do or what I need to do, or, errands that I need to run. But once that 5-minute mark passes and I start to really get into the specific postures and poses, I am 100% focused and present during that process, mind, body, and spirit, so to speak. So I want you to ask yourself and identify one thing specific that you do on an ongoing basis, maybe every day, maybe every week, where you have 100% focus on that particular thing. Meaning you're not worried about the children coming and knocking on the door and asking for cupcakes, or, the phone ringing and you being sidetracked by things you have to do, or scrolling through social media, wondering about notifications or checking emails, or, having the television going in the background, and it's kind of, taking some of your attention away from what it is that you're focusing on. One specific thing that you have for yourself that doesn't have anything to do with anyone outside of yourself, something that you hopefully love, something that gives you inspiration, that makes you feel invigorated or enthusiastic about life, that is specifically for you. It could be, doing, your schoolwork, and hopefully it's something that you actually enjoy. It could be, race car drivers and motorcycle enthusiasts always talk about when they're on the road, once they hit a certain speed limit, that they kind of feel like they connect with the road. And, there's no feelings like flying, so to speak. Maybe you're running if you're a runner, when you're running, maybe you're an engineer or an architect, and you love clean lines, or you love to create and design things. But just identify for yourself, and you can share with us in the comments if you'd like to, something that you dedicate 100% of your time and attention and energy to, that is about cultivating yourself mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and physically. And why am I asking this? You guys have heard me consistently talk about mind and heart cohesion and how the connection or the symmetry or the synchronicity of your thinking and how you're feeling is the key to, self-mastery, so to speak, even though self-mastery is an ongoing it's an ongoing goal. I don't know if we ever quite reach self-mastery, but I think the intention of, being a master of self, being a ruler of self is definitely, a part of self-mastery in itself. So mind and heart cohesion, being able to think a thought, right? Going back to those examples, if you're an architect or if you're a yogi or if you're a runner, right? And you are in the moment and you are loving the experience and it feels so good and it feels so enlivening or so inspiring that the thought process or lack thereof and the way that you're feeling at the time create this synchronicity, which some people call bliss, right? But just being able to be 100% present in the moment, being able to be aware of yourself, sort of like a meditation, right? I remember I was listening to Abraham Hicks, and a gentleman in the audience had asked a question about 50 Cent. And he was basically talking, he wanted money, right? This guy wanted to be a millionaire. But he was like, I look at a person like 50 Cent and I see him on stage and he's rapping and he's got all this money and, he's not focused on like money from a negative perspective. And it doesn't seem to me like like he's had to work for 40 years to become a millionaire, and he was just saying like I want to get into that type of flow where I can become a millionaire doing something that I love without having to, waste 40 or 50 years of my life, pounding the pavement, so to speak, or working hard in order to get there. And I loved Abraham Hicks's response. She basically said that, he was saying that 50 Cent doesn't have to meditate, right? And he's worth $500 million, right? So Abraham Hicks responded and said, well, see, the thing that you don't understand is when you watch 50 Cent and other artists and musicians and people that do what they love, when you watch him on stage, he is meditating. That is his meditation. So as he is in harmony and in rhythm with the music and the instruments and the crowd, and it's this real high vibrational, not eclectic, but high frequency type of energy, right? And he's rapping and saying the lyrics that are, reflective of his life experience, that is an actual meditation. And so I shared that particular story because I think that we have this notion that when it comes to spirituality and when it comes to meditation and when it comes to, being in alignment with God or being in alignment with the universe, that we somehow have to develop this monk type tendency. And don't get me wrong, it is important to be still. It is important to be able to silence the mind. I always say if you can't sit down for 15 or 20 minutes without Instagram and Facebook and social media and, your neighbor and what your friend said yesterday and the phone call you forgot to make and the email you forgot to send. If you can't sit down for 15 minutes without those things bombarding you, then your mind does not belong to you. It belongs to the world. So those things are important, but it's also important for us to reassess and evaluate what it means for us to be in alignment with the universe and in alignment with God. So if you love doing hair and you found a way to support yourself and support your family or to give back and be of service to the world through doing hair, then that is your meditation. That is your communion with the Creator. If you love, like me, to study quantum physics and the universe and the mind of God and nature and human psychology and energy and frequency and vibration and all of the things that it takes to actually make this universe go and tick, then that is my meditation. And that is when I am in alignment with the Creator, in alignment with God. If you love animals and you love to, you know, maybe you're a doctor or a veterinarian, or you walk dogs, or, if you love nature, you're a bird watcher, you take pictures of animals, you do safaris, whatever, then that is your meditation and that is your communion with the Creator. And all of us have special gifts. We all have things about us that make us unique and that separate us from the pack, each and every one of us. And our goal, and again, intention for our lives has to be to find that thing that makes you feel free and that makes you feel alive and that makes you feel like nothing else can. So when we talk about, intention versus attention, this notion now that, and I wrote a few things down, the vaccinations, the food shortages, economic issues, worrying about job losses, worrying about being laid off, fear-based consciousness. You have to ask yourself, how much of your time and attention every day are you spending on things that you don't want to come into your reality? Am I afraid that if I don't get a COVID vaccination, that I won't be able to take the 2-week vacation that in my mind I have planned to go to Bali and the beautiful, locations that I want to visit, and the elephant sanctuary, and the yoga I want to do on the beach and on the mountainside, and the interactions that I want to have with the local people and the local shaman, and all the beautiful things that the lushness of the tropical or the tropics, all the visualizations that I've done over the last year about taking this trip. Am I concerned about not being able to go to Thailand because there's a global pandemic in front of us and we don't know what's going to happen next year? Absolutely not. Consciousness creates reality. So the only thing that I think of when it comes to traveling internationally is where I want to go and what I want to do when I get there. And when people send me links and send me videos and say, look, ZaZa, look at this, look what happened, we're not going to be able to travel. No, that doesn't apply to me. Well, what do you mean that doesn't apply to you? Aren't you scared? Aren't you worried? Are you concerned? No, because my consciousness creates my reality. So the only thing that I need to focus on is the things that I actually want to manifest in my experience. This is why this time in history is so important, because the universe and experiences that we are all going through collectively right now is forcing us. It is forcing us to change the way we live, to change the way that we think, to change the things that we value, and to move from this very mediocre, low vibrational, lackluster experience that a lot of people on the planet have been consumed in, ridden with debt, far removed from goals and aspirations that they had as children or in their young adult stages, totally neglecting any potential that may have been on the horizon, or things that we wanted to do with our lives that got caught in the shuffle of having children, or taking on a job that you looked up and you were there for 20 years. All of those things, religious affiliation, and being scared to start exploring spiritual things because we grew up in the church, or we grew up in the mosque, or wherever. All of those things are being revised and elevated now. And it's a beautiful time to be alive, because Those of us that know that we are being protected, that know that there will always be a way, that know that nothing bad is going to come to us or be allowed to harm us. And despite what's happening in the world, those of us that know good things are on their way and that can hold tight to a vision or a goal or an aspiration, as long as we can maintain the visualization and the thought process and the frequency, which is, determined by the way that we feel, that those things are going to make their way into our reality. Deepak Chopra says, intention grounded in the detached freedom of the present serves as the catalyst for the right mix of matter, energy, and space-time events to create whatever it is that we desire. Intention grounded in the detached freedom of the present serves as the catalyst for the right mix of matter, energy, and space-time events to create whatever it is that we desired. If you have life-centered, present moment awareness, then the imaginary obstacles, which are more than 90% of perceived obstacles, disintegrate and disappear. More than 90% of what the world is focused on right now, the worst case scenario, the statistics of what could happen if we don't do this, economics, politics, education, the social structure, more than 90% of it is perceived obstacles, meaning we don't even know if they're going to happen yet. We don't even know if this will be the reality. But the fact that we focus our energy and our intention and our attention, we focus our energy and attention on those worst case scenarios, that is what will make those obstacles manifest in our lives. Intention is the fertile ground of attention and has infinite organizing power. Infinite organizing power. There is a universe, there is a creator, there is energy, there is consciousness, there is awareness that keeps the planets in rotation, that keeps this very organized, system that we all live in, that keeps it actually going, that keeps it going. He said a single cell in the human body is doing about 6 trillion things per second, and it has to know what every other cell is doing at the same time. Now imagine that. Imagine that one single cell in your body, and it's doing about 6 trillion things per second, and it also has to know what every other cell is doing at the same time. This is the organized mind of the universe. The same thing that keeps the planets in rotation and the solar system working at its height, is working the way that it's supposed to, I should say. This is the same thing that is happening within the universe of you. So if this grand architectural feat that is your body, that is your brain, that is your consciousness and your awareness, is here and is living and is functioning and is capable of anything, then how could we be operating from fear? How could we be worried about tomorrow? How could we think that God has abandoned us? How could we possibly think that it's possible for any plague, whether it's a physical plague or a spiritual plague or a mental plague or an emotional plague, could get in the way of our personal as well as our collective greatness? ZaZaAli.com is my website. You can access the Alchemy Cipher group as well as other courses that I have available. And you can also access my metaphysics workbooks as well as my books there. ZaZaAli.com. If you'd like to reach me, my email address is info at ZaZaAli.com. Thank you so much for your time and attention. Peace and love.